Okay. I'm feeling too nervous. Every time I film these things, I get so nervous. I don't know why. So today I'm filming a Get Ready With Me as we talk about the 5 best things about being Korean American and growing up in the South. I don't think this will have any specifics for growing up in the South versus just being Korean American, but just in case, I did want to make it a little bit more personal to my experience. So if you haven't checked out the other video where I talk about some of the hardest things growing up in the South, I think it'll help you kind of understand this video as well. I have all of my skincare done. I washed my face and I'm just going to start off with some pore fillers, primer, because I have massive pores. So let's talk about the best things growing up Korean American. Honestly, the first thought that came to mind was the Korean stationery. So Korean stationery meaning Korean journals, pencils, pencil holders, stickers, you name it. We had a local store called Morning Glory when I was growing up, and we would go there, and going there was like a treat for my sisters and my cousins, and we would get all of these, different types of things, school supplies for school. And I remember after a trip, I would bring some of those supplies to school, and I would get so many questions from obviously my non-Asian American friends of just like, where did you get this? This is so cute. I want one. And I would tell them, oh, it's this store called Morning Glory. Or I told them that there was more, there's other stores like Sanrio, etc. We didn't have Taiso growing up. So having access to really extra cute, beautiful stationery like that, especially when, your daily life is going to school and using those things every day, it just made me feel so proud to be Asian and Korean, and to see my friends like super curious about where I got it. It just gave me that extra sense of confidence, I think. So the second best thing about growing up Korean American was the snacks. I mean, you really couldn't beat the Korean snacks. Like, they were so good. And honestly, as much as I love Frito-Lays or whatever, all the treats are, Oreos, I mean, you name it, Goldfish, like anytime my mom would take a trip, to the Korean market, and we would get 새우깡, 고래밥, 홈런볼, 초코송이, like 빼빼로, the list goes on. I literally could not get enough of Korean snacks. It tasted so good. And I do remember like my friends would come over and I would, I'd be like, oh, do you want some crackers or some snacks? And offer the Korean ones. And they'd be like, oh, like, why is there a shrimp on the bag? Like, why is there a crab on the bag? I'd be like, just trust me, it's really good. And they would eat it and they'd be like, this is really good. So yes, the seafood flavor is interesting. But the third one is kind of a cliche, but I still wanted to include it because it's very true to me and how I grew up, and something I loved growing up, which was Korean dramas. Like, also Korean dramas did not look like they do today. Now they look so high quality. Everyone's dressed super well. Like, whenever I was growing up, like, yes, everyone was beautiful, but the quality wasn't that good. It was way cheesier. The lines were cheesy. If there was ever some sort of, graphics involved or some sort of like really complex scene, then you could always tell. Even at my age as a kid, I could tell that it was lower quality than what I was watching in the States, but it didn't matter because I loved watching Korean dramas. I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, you name it, 청구의 계단, Full House, like Kung. I mean, when I was really young, I apparently really liked this drama, or I remember really liking this drama. But this was when I was like, I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 years old, called 별은 내 가슴에, I think. And again, like super cheesy hairstyles and low quality, but it was so good. And then, of course, movies that you can't forget, like My Sassy Girl. Also, I would also watch dramas that were technically meant for adults, just meaning it wasn't inappropriate or anything. It was just like 대장금. I remember 허준. These are all time period dramas that I think a lot of kids probably found boring, but I was so into them and I thought they were so fun. So it was sad, you know, to not be able to talk to my friends about it at school because no one watched Korean shows, but just like the fun of when my mom would go to the video store and a new episode was out of a drama we were watching, like, it was the best. Okay. I'm like a little behind on my makeup because I don't know how to time these get ready with me's correctly. And I'm really bad at talking and doing my makeup or doing anything, honestly. Gosh, how do other content creators do this? This is so hard. Base makeup, done. The fourth thing that I loved about growing up Korean American was the karaoke culture, which I've heard is similar through a lot of other Asian families as well, especially like the Filipino families. But I want to say, at least from my perspective and my circle of people I grew up around, especially Korean Americans, almost every household at some point, not always, but at some point in their life had a karaoke machine at their house. And it was normal at family gatherings where, you know, after dinner, maybe after some drinks, after playing some games, the parents would turn on the karaoke machine and everyone would just kind of take turns singing around the living room. You know, their favorite songs, whether it was slow songs, like party songs. I mean, most parents, I want to say, sang like slower, kind of old, folkier songs from my perspective growing up. And my cousins will laugh at this because I personally loved singing and I loved like performing for our family. I would act like I didn't, but then I would always end up. And because I liked doing that, of course, like they like watching me because I'm just like a little kid who perform for them. I'm like their personal, you know, jester. And so they would make me go up there and sing noraebang like every I don't know, Thanksgiving or birthday dinner or whatever. But I even want to say it wasn't always just for family gatherings. I mean, I would say majority of the time it was, but also just for, like, my parents would sometimes turn it on in the weekday when they just felt like singing. My dad wasn't as big of a singer. My mom, I can't say she's a good singer, but she enjoys karaoke. So we would sometimes just sing in the middle of the week too. And looking back, like, that's not the most common and normal thing to be doing, right? But it was a lot of fun, and I realized, like, I kind of thought growing up that everyone karaokeed, and you know, all people knew what karaoke meant. And when I realized that a lot of my American friends did not, and had no even like concept of karaoke, like outside of stuff they saw in TV shows, I was shocked because it was just such a normal, common thing for my family and family friends. And let's be real, games are fun, playing music is fun, but man, when you get people singing karaoke, that's when it gets really lively. So let's do the last thing. The fifth thing that I want to say was probably my favorite thing growing up Korean American was the Korean bakeries. The Koreatown was not super close to our house. It was like a 30 to 40 minute drive, but in the closest Koreatown, there was a Korean bakery, and I freaking loved the Korean bakery. Like, to be honest, I actually don't even have that big of a sweet tooth, but man, something about Korean baked goods I just couldn't get enough of. And I didn't feel like the American bakeries were as good, to be honest. Maybe it's just because I grew up on the Korean bakeries, or I was super accustomed to that style. I have a cousin actually who really doesn't like the cakes that come from Korean bakeries, which it's hard for me to understand because I prefer those cakes over a lot of the American style cakes. I feel like Korean people are really big on their baked goods not being too sweet. The irony of that, right? Like a compliment from an Asian person for something sweet, even like a drink, like a sweet drink, is that, oh, it's so good, it's not too sweet. Ironic, I know. But I want to say the Korean bakeries that I grew up around did a really good job of that. Always wanting more baked goods from there. All right, last but not least, the lips. All right, let me just kind of get everything else ready and I'll be right back. Voila, I'm back. The full get ready with me is done. Anyway, those were the best things about growing up Korean American. Even talking about it makes me feel more proud. Thanks for watching.